Welcome back to From Corporate to Cash Flow, where Andrea Cannon and Liz Schwab, two pharmacists navigating the process of building time and financial freedom through real estate investing and lending while working our day jobs. Navigating the journey is difficult, but our podcast guests are experts in showing us how it's done. And today we have Trevor Hicks. Trevor, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, the pleasure is ours, Trevor. Hey, we would love to learn a little bit more about you and understand more about your real estate journey. So, wondering if you can catch us up to speed on, how did you first get started in real estate and what are you more so focusing on today?
Sure. So I first got started in real estate, just looking for ways to invest outside of the stock market. I was bored. I knew a little bit about 401k and I knew, it goes up, it comes down, and I wanted more control. I just get bored. And honestly, in my day job, I started to experiment and kind of take a look at things a little over 2 years ago. And I had some money in an IRA, but at the time I didn't know you could invest with your IRA. So I was like, okay, well, I have some savings. I don't know if I want to do that. How do I invest with, no money? So went searching and found Pace Morby on YouTube, and that was about March or April of 2024. Didn't immediately jump into the communities, his communities, Sub 2, Gator, and Owners Club. I didn't immediately do that. I listened. I took advantage of all of the free resources, and I actually jumped into somebody he had on his YouTube channel. His name was Ryan Schroep, and I found him. He had a transactional funding community, and I was like, oh, cool. I can fund stuff with like 5 or 10 grand, or like get in and find leads and do this all through him. So I started that in May of 2024, while I was still working my day job, and that allowed me to work from home a couple days a week. So in my lunch hours or whatever, I take breaks at night, I would work on that. And really, how I got into what I'm doing now, which is mostly fix and flip and lending on fix and flips. I found a lead that I thought needed some funding, and I was reaching out, and she informed me she did not need funding, but she needed somebody to buy her mother-in-law's house. Mother-in-law had been married for 30 years. They were getting a divorce, and they just wanted to sell off the house for cash and quick. And I was like, oh, I've listened to YouTube channel. Like, I know what I should do. When really it was like 3 months worth of building rapport with these people through Facebook Messenger. We did a couple of FaceTime videos. They sent me pictures of the house, and they were begging me for an offer. Like what I would give to go back to that and have people beg me for an offer, whereas now I like have to tiptoe into it. Um, but I negotiated a really solid cash offer, at least what I thought was a really solid cash offer, and then I got it under contract. And then I was like, oh crap, what do I do? I don't know what to do. So the only thing I could think of was use the community that was around me. So I had met a couple people. This was in Palm Coast, which is about 90 minutes from me. I live in Central Florida in Orlando. This was in Palm Coast, about an hour south of Jacksonville. And I knew somebody in the community that was from Jacksonville. Her name's Mandy. And I reached out to her and I said, hey, you do fix and flips. I know you said you do fix and flips. Can you buy this from me? I just got this great deal. I go into sales mode. And she's like, actually, this is a really, really good deal. But I can't take on another project right now. And I'm like, okay, so what do I do? Back to square one. Like, I didn't want to let these people down. I had built a really good rapport with them, and they were super nice. Lady was going through a tough time. So she referred me to my now partner, Robert. And Robert and I had a conversation. I said, great, let me tell you about this house. Do you want to buy it from me? I'll wholesale it to you. Like, I'm not looking to get rich. I just want to help this lady. Would you buy it for me? I think I had it locked up for 212. I was like, would you buy it for me for like maybe 220, like 217? I was like, I'll be happy to make 5 grand. And he goes, I'm either your buyer or I'm your partner on this. And I was like, what does that mean? He goes, you locked up a really good deal. This house is worth close to 350 if we put like 10 to 15 grand into it. Like, that's it. And it'll be good. We ended up putting 20 into it. And I think when all was said and done, we each made a little over $30,000 in a matter of like 2.5 months. And the light bulb went off. We closed on the house in September, middle to end of September. And I lost my job. I was let go from my job in November, like November, first or second week of November. So we're right in the middle of all this, about to list it. And I'm like, oh crap, what the heck do I do now? Well, I got a severance. I was working on my knee at the time. I was doing rehab on my knee. I couldn't go back to work because I couldn't walk. And as a PT, you need to be able to walk and like teach people to walk. So I went off to Thanksgiving with my family. My wife was like, "Oh, you just lost your job. We shouldn't go on vacation." I'm like, "No, forget that. Like, we're going to go. We're going to have a good time." While we were gone, the house went under contract. We sold and we closed on the house on December 30th. So just shy of 3 months, or right at, I can't remember. But we closed just before the end of the year. And I got this check that was like $31,000. And I borrowed the rehab money from my father and made him a return. So all of a sudden light bulbs are going off and I'm like, okay, maybe I could do this. I could figure this out. And I just thought this was going to be one deal. And my partner was like, no, I've been looking for somebody to like partner up with. We work well together. Do you want to do more of this next year? And my immediate answer was like, yeah, absolutely. I want to do more of this. And then I was kind of still in the contemplative stage of like, do I go back full time as a PT or do I go full fledged into this? And I remember approaching my wife about it in January. I had prayed about it a lot, spent a lot of time with family over the holidays. And I was like, I'm really enjoying like the amount of time I'm getting to spend with my family when I'm not sitting behind a desk. So I asked her and she was like, yeah, let's figure out how to make this thing work. She also had income coming in. She's been a photographer for like 7 years. So we went full fledged into the entrepreneurial life. I did go back and get a PRN job, which means I pretty much work when I want. So over the summer, I think from June, July, and August, I worked a total of like 8 days,
Mm.
which was great because we traveled. I spent time with family. We went on an RV trip. We were on Owners Club, meet and greet out in Monterey. We had absolute blast of a year, but I'm still learning for sure. So that
Yeah.
is my whole story.
Yeah, no, that was good. We like that story. So are you still focusing on fix and flips then?
Yeah. So in the middle of all that last year, I really wanted to get back to lending. Like I kind of segued from it. I was doing transactional funding, which I liked. I didn't love. Um, but then I started learning fix and flips, and I'm like, huh,
Mhm.
we're borrowing money from people. They're making good money on us, and they're not doing any of the work. Like one of our biggest flips, we lost 5 grand, and the lender still made like their $22,000. So I'm like, huh, how do I do that? Especially when I don't have $300,000. And I just started raising capital. I started putting on social media everything we were doing from a fix and flip side. People were coming to us and saying, hey, we want to learn how to do what you're doing. How do we do this? I'm like, well, you go buy a house or you can partner with us. And like, well, what does a partnership look like? So basically our gap lenders are like they're wanting to come in and learn. So I started raising money that way. And then I started funding out of my self-directed IRA. So I had IRAs from years of um, working for Advent Health and for the foundation that I rolled into a self-directed IRA. Then we also had an investment account that when I started feeling confident about this, actually it was like January, February of last year after we closed that first deal, I convinced my wife to let me take out our investment account, cash it out of like the stock market. I remember my truest guy was like, you're crazy. Like, you shouldn't do this. And I'm like, well, I'm showing here where you haven't been telling me about all these hidden fees. So I'm pulling this out. Like, this is crazy. So I pulled out a little over 100 grand of that. And I had about the same in a self directed IRA that I started lending both of those. Um, Mostly in second position to people that I knew were consistent, strong operators that were doing fix and flips, that were not just doing a one off. I mentioned Mandy before. I still actively lend to her. I've lended to a handful of other people. And ultimately, I've tried to continue to gain more capital through other people to put into more like hard money loans and things like that, because there's obviously ways to make money that way. I've lent on EMD still. I've done probably 3 or 4 double closes, but I just don't advertise for those because I don't have
Mhm.
that big of a capital stack.
Yeah.
But I know who to refer them to. And again, so
Yeah. So are you working primarily in Florida then, or just wherever the deal may present? Or like, do you have like a specific deal box that you go off
yeah,
of?
yeah. Originally, it was just Palm Coast because my partner was there and he had contractors there. So for fix and flips, we go there, and then we also have started. This will be our second one in Orlando. We did one in Savannah, Georgia. However, that closes on Thursday. Finally, after about 10 months, and went from me being the lender to the owner to basically breaking even after 10 months. So I don't know
Oh,
that I would go back there. Let's put it this way. I wouldn't go back there and work with the same people that we worked with before. I found some new partners there through it. I've learned a lot of lessons. So it's been a good learning. It's been a good learning experience. But yeah, ours is mostly now Central Florida, Orlando, greater metro area. 3 to 1,200 square feet or larger. No major foundation issues, no fire damage,
Yeah.
nothing like that. Um, but yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
much our
No,
buy box for that. I would lend elsewhere. I would lend Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee.
okay. And then just out of curiosity, like why those particular states for lending?
I want to be able to get to the project if
Yeah.
something goes wrong. That is one thing. Like I'm in a PML mastermind right now. Um, and we did a one-on-one before it started with two, I'd say, pretty prominent lenders within our community, which is Alexis Morgan and Chai. And Chai said, you may have gotten into fix and flip, but that's going to be one of your biggest strengths when you can become a lender. Because if
Hmm.
you ever have to take over a project, a lot of lenders, you don't want to loan to own, especially
Hmm.
a fix and flip. If you loan it to own it and something goes wrong and you have to foreclose, you need to finish the flip or you need to fire sale it. And unless you really were good on your lend and you made sure you covered yourself in the underwriting, you know, but he's like, if you take it over and you finish the project, you could even then make even more profit. So
Hmm.
I want to be able to get to it. I have pretty confident boots on the ground throughout like most of those areas. And it's a day's drive. I could get to it if I needed to in an emergency. But
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I think that's a pretty good principle to have for lending to actually be able to physically go there like rather easily, right? Rather than hopping on a plane. So definitely makes sense. And
exactly.
then I believe you mentioned previously that you currently still have like maybe an as needed job for W-2. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I still do physical therapy. I've been a PT since May 1st of 2014, and I still really, really, really enjoy it. I still love helping people. Educating and things like that too. So I do work for a healthcare system here in Orlando. It was actually my first job out of school. I left, went to a different one, and came back. But yeah, it's nice. It's easy. It's flexible. So that way, when I let them know a month before what my schedule is, and I work when I want to work, and when I want to take a trip, I don't have to work. It's great.
Yeah, that's sounds really nice because typically we ask people, are you planning to transition away from your W-2? But yours sounds like it has like a little bit more flexibility than most people. So I guess what is your plan with that? I mean, do you think that's something you're going to continue because you genuinely enjoy it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say originally I went back because I had to out of necessity. My student loans were on a public student loan forgiveness program. So I had 10 years of nonprofit work that I had to fulfill on. And when I got let go from my job, I was about 4 months shy, 3 months shy of 10 years. So I was like, really? You couldn't have waited till like 3 more months to let me go? But so I went back out of necessity at first, but and I am still waiting for that forgiveness to come in the mail. We are waiting every day for that to come, but Department of Education is taking their sweet time. Even once that's gone, originally I this time last year I would have told you when April hit, it was supposed to be February, March, April. Those were my 3 months. I applied for forgiveness and I was done. But I actually really enjoy the people I work with. I enjoy honestly kind of going back there and being reminded of like the W-2 mindset, the whining, the complaining, the drama. Like I kind of go back there and I laugh and I like pick at some of the nurses. I'm like, you guys have it so good. Like stop complaining. You have a job. Like you have a job. And if you don't want the job, leave. Go do something else. What's keeping you here? And it's like, yeah, it's the grumbling, it's the, all that stuff. So it's fun, it's entertaining, and it's a reminder of kind of like what I had before, and also still kind of, I have a little bit of FOMO. Like I still really enjoy the PT world. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's funny that you like to go back to pick at people and hear the grumbling. That's pretty funny, but it is nice to get that experience with the people that you like, and it's especially nice when it's on your terms, which it sounds like that is. So that's really cool. So tell me, we've kind of dug in a little bit to the motivation behind the why with real estate, right? The boredom, the spending the time with, boredom with other investments, and then wanting to spend more time with kids. But there's all kinds of other things that you could do. Like you could own your own PT practice or, something like that. So any particulars with why real estate and why with the motivation behind, making this transition?
yeah, that's a really good question. And I would say it's kind of come full circle throughout the past year because even in Owners Club, the whole idea with Owners Club was getting in there, was getting around like-minded people. And for me, it was the biggest investment I had made into myself other than college, um, which was drastically, drastically more. But it was a step in the right direction for me, and it was a mindset shift that I really felt like if I made that capital investment, I had no choice but to make it work. It's not like I was going to drop 35 grand over a year and just be like, oh, no big deal. Just toss it at the side. Like, no, I have a family of four. Like, we could have done a lot with that. That's like 4 or 5 months, at least 6 months worth of living expenses. So it's like, I've got to figure out a way to make this work. Um, but it's also come, like when you asked about a PT clinic, that's something I've come full circle on. Um, we've been in weddings and wedding photography for a long time. Wedding venues is something we've looked at. Hospitality, my wife and I met and as servers, bartenders, used to do valet. So I've actually really shifted my sights possibly towards, I shouldn't say possibly, I plan to buy a business in 2026. I would say I probably plan to buy another rental, our first individual. We own a rental as a partnership. We bought one sub two last year. And it wasn't all rainbows and daisies. Um, we had a cost for the 5 months that it took to get somebody in there. 6 months it took somebody to get somebody in there. So we incurred a lot of costs last year, that I'm excited about, trying to turn that around this year and now leverage some of the knowledge that I've gained, leverage the community that I've gained, and really stick to my guns, which at this point is the PR and PT. I mentioned the photography and videography. That's my wife and I've owned that business since 2019, and trying to leverage that experience more within the community this year, as well as I love to travel. I love, as Andrea and I know, we message each other back and forth through our Instagram wherever she's traveling, and I'm always jealous. I'm usually planning my next trip, but actually to throw some like adventure retreats this year, so to get other people out in nature, hiking, doing other photography things, just doing adventure stuff, because that's really where I feel most alive, and I feel well equipped to lead people out there, and then to speak on like my experiences like we're doing now, and like taking that next step in business, taking that next step in real estate, and just finding that next business partner through some of those endeavors and experiences. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I'm just knowing you outside of this podcast. That seems like such a good fit. And when you said the wedding venues, I was like, oh my gosh, light bulb. Can you imagine you're like photographer, also wedding venue connection, like how that could really work out? Here's our preferred vendors. Oh, it's me.
Oh, it's me. No, we said that a couple of years ago because there's one particular venue that I remember my wife and I shot at, and there's like a resident. It's like a 15 acre. That's probably more than that. Yeah, it's like 15 acres. Beautiful pond and this like trees all around it, and then like there's these pavers. It's beautiful. Off to the other side is the barn, and then off the other side is like the private residence, and then next to it is like the getting ready house for the bride and the groom. And we're both like, man, one day when we retire, we should own one of these and we'll just move out here. And I'm like, then we got into Owners Club, and I was like, why am I waiting till I retire? Like, what? What is holding me back? And it's taken some time, but we actually just came back from Denver. And my wife and I just worked a wedding together last Sunday after church. We drove up to St. Augustine. It's about 2 hours away. And it's a beautiful venue we've been waiting to shoot at for years and years and years. And we both looked at each other and we're like, we could freaking own this place. We could run this place. We know the ins and outs of this so easy. And it was so like stress free. We're like, all right, I think we're finally like ready to do it. I think we both needed that mental, like, yeah, we could do this. But yeah, that's part of the connections I've made through Owners Club this past year, with some people that have done some really awesome things in Zero Down, and plan to buy a business under her tutelage this year. So excited for that too.
That's so awesome. That is really cool. And especially with you guys, being the photographers and then having the real estate background, you know how a wedding runs, and different, obviously people do weddings slightly differently, according to the bridegroom, et cetera, but they all tend to follow a certain pattern, and you can probably fill in those gaps really easily when you've done so many weddings in the past. That's what a cool way to leverage like all of your fun little areas, like the adventure stuff and the photography and the real estate, and seeing it all come together. That'd be really awesome. That'd be so cool.
It's the goal. It's the goal is to put them all together in like one fun package. One of the coolest weddings we ever did was outside of Zion. On the east side of Zion, there's I forget what it's called, like the Zion Ponderosa or something like that.
Ponderosa,
Like all
yes.
these like mansions out there. Well,
Yes.
it was a PTA of mine. It was somebody I managed, and he had just proposed. Actually, that's right. We photographed his proposal too. So two of my coworkers knew that my wife was a photographer. One of which proposed at the top of a lighthouse, and we were there and we photographed it. And then the other one he proposed, actually, it was when we were all walking around together at like a light show around Christmas. He proposed, and we ended up shooting both of their weddings. One was in Cartagena, Colombia, amazing, amazing wedding. The
Gosh.
other one was in Zion, and it was this mansion that overlooked like the mesa, and it was, oh, it was so gorgeous. And they were like, yeah, would you consider shooting it? And I remember my wife and I were like, just pay for us to get there. You don't have to pay for anything else, just pay for us to get there, and we're there. It's for free. We did both of those weddings for free, other than travel. And we had such an amazing time. But that's the kind of venue that I would want to own, something with like an epic view that sells itself, but you can stay on site. And that's actually where I like kind of dabbled into being like, oh, I want to own, an RV park. You can
Mhm.
stay in an RV park or put tiny homes there, put a cabin, and people can stay. People can get married there, and then like the after parties there. People don't have to leave. Nobody's driving drunk. Like that's the goal. Um, so something like that, I could definitely see owning.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So I'm going to keep my eyes open for something like that because I can see it too.
Yeah,
That's so
be
cool.
great. Southern Utah, all day. I would. I
Like my favorite. I was literally in Southern Utah this weekend, so I'm all about.
Yes.
That's really cool. Well, thinking about all the lessons that you've learned, because you've been sharing with us so many like great nuggets along this process. What's a lesson, the biggest lesson that you've learned that you wish you would have known earlier in your journey?
Probably what I tell my kids all the time is there's other ways to provide for your family than just going to school and getting a job. Um, Not to say I was brainwashed, but that's what I was told, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be, good son, good student. And I always thought being a good father was the same thing, just going to work, making money, and putting them through school so they could do the same. And I get so much joy out of walking them to school every morning, or being able to like take my daughter to gymnastics today because I wasn't at my W-2 and I didn't have to call out, I didn't have to leave early, I didn't have to rearrange my schedule. I set my schedule. Um, and if I want to make more money, I work harder and find other ways to make more money. And if I'm content, I'm content. That's the biggest thing I think I would take away is like realizing there's other ways in this world just because it's not broadcasted out there. Get inside some of these rooms, get into a community, network with people, talk to people, let them know what you're into, let them know what you're looking for, and ask for help. Um, I'm never really great at asking for help. I'm good at like, oh, what are you doing? And kind of invasively like trying to figure it out. But I'm never great at being like, hey, how'd you do that? Like, I'd really love to learn how to do that. Would you mind teaching me? Or what do I like? This is what I bring to the table. Could you teach me something as well? But I'm really interested in what you're doing. And I shouldn't say most people, the right people that you'd want to learn from anyway will open up and talk to you, as long as you're not like, hey, how do I make a ton of money without doing anything? Or, I'm just a moocher. But the people that aren't going to teach you, don't waste your time with it anyway. Just keep moving and keep looking. So
Yeah, that is really good advice, especially the thing about, potentially maybe being brainwashed a little bit, because I know Liz and I can both relate to that. That's really the path that we were both kind of set on as well, right? Like it's the one that was presented to us as kids. It's the one that was kind of in the expectations, right? I studied really hard in school. We were top of the class, like did all the extracurriculars in order to get into a good college, went full ham on, undergrad and then pharmacy school, just really leaned into it because I thought that that was the way. And when I think about why I did that specifically, it was all about like the safety and security to provide for my family for the future. And like, this is the way you did it, right? This is how I secured my future, is to get this good job. And so it's so interesting that you're identifying this right now, because I think that that is such a good piece of advice. And I wish I would have known that myself sooner than I did, and sooner than I learned, because there's just so many options out there.
there really is. There really is. There's so many ways to make money. There's so many ways to provide value and still have fun while you do it. And that's
Yes.
what I'm finding. Like hosting these adventure retreats, I'm like, at first I was like pricing them. I was like, I just want to go as long as I go for free. And then somebody was like, well, no, you're putting all this time in. Like you can make money off of this. I'm like, okay. And I priced it out. Like this still isn't that expensive. I would pay to go to something like this. This is awesome. And I'm making money to do what I love, be with friends, find business partners. Like, this isn't fair.
Yeah. Isn't that fun? I love that extra layer of things. So thinking about your, transition from being PT and full time and the roles that you had, and even the PRN, you have kind of your day prescribed for you when you're doing that role, right? There's patients you have to see, there's things that you have to do, and you don't really have as much autonomy. But as you kind of described earlier, now you're able to design your own schedule, but you could also just never do any work, right? So there's got to be that fine balance of getting enough stuff done to make sure that you're moving towards your goals. So are there any habits or routines that you've developed to stay productive and focused?
Whew, that's a tough one, and you're exactly right. There's no boss behind you telling you if you don't work, you don't make money. Whereas before, I could hide out in my office and scroll like most people do, or shop on Amazon. I've walked over so many people's shoulders on their work laptops, like scrolling and on Amazon. And I'm like, what? Here, yes, that's tough. I would say I'm naturally pretty driven. My wife would probably say annoyingly so. Like I don't sit still well. I don't just chill unless I'm in the mountains, like sitting by a creek. And Denver, I feel like I did a pretty darn good job. I really only checked my email like 3 times over like 9 days. I was like, heck yeah. But I was also skiing on a mountain. Um, but I actually closed a deal from the top of the ski lodge. So that was kind of cool. But I digress. What's the beautiful thing with like technology? Like, right, we can do it from anywhere. And we stopped skiing midday, and I'm like negotiating a deal, and he's like, okay, I think we can do it for that price. I'm like, and I turned to my friend. He's like, you ready to go? I was like, I just closed a deal on like the top of a mountain. Like, look where we are. Like, let's go. It was so cool. Um, but yes, man, I got lost in what I was saying. Shocker. Oh, no, 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 no. I at first I forgot what I was supposed to be answering. So, a routine. Yes, I would say I've really tried hard to get into a routine. I'm not naturally an early riser, so I'm not the crazies that get up at 4 in the morning. I have to really kick my butt to get out of bed by like 6:30, unless I'm training for a race, which I don't have anything on the calendar right now, unfortunately, because we had to cancel Ironman. Um, but I try and get up. I have a relatively small house, so I try and stay quiet, and I read the Bible in the morning. I'll do a little bit of prayer, a little bit of meditation, and then maybe some breath work. And if I'm going to work out in the morning, I'll go get a run in. I'll get out of the house, or I'll come out here in the room I'm in now, which is like kind of separate from the rest of the house, and like do a little stretching, do a mobility. And so that way, at least I've already kind of moved and got in some good thinking. And then I take my kids to school. I get them up with my wife and get breakfast and stuff ready, get a little bit of exercise in if I haven't already. After that, sometimes I'll run home. And then it's kind of like, okay, what's my calendar got starting at 9 o'clock? I usually try not to start anything before 8:30, um, and just kind of go from there, whether it's going to check on the fix and flip, whether we're, have a meeting with a potential investor who wants to either lend money on our project or, wants to help us find new projects and bird dog for us. Um, Doing a little bit of reading, a little bit of learning, but I've tried to get a lot better with my schedule, because I'm also like, oh, I'll just fly by the seat of my pants, and whatever needs to get done, I'll just do it that day. And I thought that was like a badge of honor. And until I listened to Pace's calendar series, I was like, you're an idiot. Like, dude, just block your schedule. And then it was never like my wife would be like, what are you doing today? And for a while I was like, well, my calendar. She's like, I get it. You've got a calendar. I get it. And then now I don't get asked anymore. She's like, oh, I saw you have this at this time. I'm like, wow, like Pace was kind of right about this. Like it actually does make a freaking difference. Um, and I stopped answering my phone all the time to anybody that would interrupt me. That's another big one, because I have ADD like crazy. So it'd be like, oh, so and so just text me. Hold on, I gotta go. It's like, no, I'm scheduled on a meeting with you two. Like, finish what you're doing, finish your train of thought, and you're way more productive. So it's been a year of learning some entrepreneurial skills and really some growth. And I love that. I love learning new stuff, learning new skills, and growing as a person and a human and as a father and as a husband. So
Yeah, for sure. And I have to ask because I feel like everyone says this, and I made this comment to Andrea, but do you have a vision board?
in my head,
Yeah. Okay. That's close
I
enough. Yeah.
I don't. What I would consider, she's one of our mentors and now one of like my wife's best friends and who we went skiing with in Denver. Um, she's been a realtor, she's been a title agent, she's an investor, she owns her title company. That's who I kind of latched onto like 2 years ago when I first got into this because I knew she was successful. She does a vision board, and I've always like, oh, I'd do that, and I just never have.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Well, I hear it's very popular and very successful for a lot of people. So just throwing that out there too.
that's
Yeah.
a good idea. It is a really good
Yeah.
idea. Especially, I've got some big goals for this year, so I want to. Maybe it's time.
Yeah. There you go. Can you tell us your big goals, or do you not want to share those?
Yeah, owning a business is one. I'd like to continue what we did last year as far as flips. I want to still flip about 6 houses again this year with a partner, and potentially even do one on our own, like my wife and I.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to scale the hard money lending business and do 10 loans this year for hard money lending. But the biggest part of the biggest barrier to that is raising capital. So if anybody's got capital out there that's listening and they want to put it into deals, I've got plenty. So
We like it. Do you want to share what types of returns you'd be offering?
I can't guarantee any. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, for a private money lender, yes, I would guarantee uh, 8 to 10% returns is an annualized basis. You
Mm-hmm.
want to put it in for longer, obviously, I can hopefully bump that up a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, 8 to 10% is what I'm targeting. So that way there's still meat on the bone for me to make something too for lining up the deal.
Yeah.
Because usually my loans that I quote to people is like 12%,
Mhm.
uh, 2 points, and kind of go from there from a fix and flip standpoint for 12 months if they need it.
Yeah, perfect. And then kind of, switching gears here, I know you've given us a lot of your story and a lot of just like tidbits of advice. So for someone that's like newly starting and understanding their like financial independence journey, so maybe they're starting to see all the fees that are in like their 401k accounts, or, just randomly discovering new information where they're like, ooh, yikes, I need to maybe start learning more or figuring out how to handle my money. What type of advice would you give that person?
Pick up a book and pick up a mentor. There's plenty of books out there. I can't remember the one. One of them was by the basics of like real estate with Dan Keller. And then the other one I want to say was like Simple Path to Wealth. That was another good one that my friend gave me that talks to you about investing with an IRA and like how IRAs work and just very basic guides. And that actually touches on the stock market some too. Um, but just start gaining some knowledge. You don't have to be a guru at it, but like pick up a book and read. Like there's knowledge in there, read it. But also getting a mentor, somebody that will hold you accountable, somebody that whether it starts with a friend or somebody that you know is in the space that you want to be in, or at least the space that you think you want to be in, and go explore it for at least 3 to 6 months and take some action. Doesn't necessarily mean empty your 401k into one deal. I know of a lot of people that are like so desperate to get into real estate. And I mean, we're all in the same community. You know, that happens. There's bad actors out there. And so I'd be very cautious and very careful. Um, but also as a capital raiser myself, like do your due diligence. If they're not transparent, if they're not letting you know, like what the money's going into and they're not willing to secure you. But then ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And if people are like, why are you asking me so many questions? Just turn around and go the other way. There's so many deals out there. It may seem scarce, but like that's just a scarcity mindset. There are still good deals out there. There are still good people. There's still good operators. It may take a little bit of time to, filter through the weeds and filter through the bad actors, but it is well worth it. As somebody who has lost money on deals from bad actors, luckily not a lot, but still lost money. You learn lessons that way.
Definitely. Yeah. Liz and I do private money lending as well, and we have learned some lessons ourselves. So more
Oh yeah.
to come on that in the future. But I super appreciate that piece of advice because I think it's really good. And there's so much knowledge out there, and I love the identification also of a mentor, because finding somebody who's doing what you want to do and then figuring out how to work with them, learn from them, is really going to take that just learning piece, that knowledge, where so many people are just like watching YouTube videos or reading books, but actually convert it into action. And so I love that like second piece with the mentor, because I think that's super important. I have a more of a fun question for you, which I can't wait to hear your answer to this because we ask this to a lot of different people, but I know you are a big traveler. So Liz and I are as well. We love exploring the outdoors, getting outside, traveling, all kinds of things, and just having fun along the way of building wealth. I loved when you highlighted earlier you were going to do something when you retired, and then you were like, no, why don't we do it now? And that's kind of our philosophy with the way that we do things in life as well. So just wondering if you have any upcoming bucket list travel in the next year or so that you'd like to share?
Oh, absolutely. So I just hit my 12 years of marriage with my wife on March the 12th, actually, while we were at Squad Up.
Yay.
So she was amazing coming along for that. I put her to work on our anniversary day. Like she was shooting content. Like Andrea was there the day before getting headshots done. So like we've planned this trip since probably before we were at 5 years. But we met actually serving at TGI Fridays, but we were both big soccer players. She played college soccer at University of Central Missouri. I was at UCF. And when we found out that the World Cup was coming to North America in 2026, we were like, oh my gosh, that's our 10-year anniversary. We're doing a trip around it. So originally we were like, okay, we want to go to the Pacific Northwest. We've really never been up. She's got family outside of Tacoma, Washington, but we've never really been up there. I've been to Portland last year for travel, for work, but we've never got to explore. So what we're going to do in June is we're doing a 2-week trip. The first week, we're actually going to Napa Valley with our friends we just talked about. Going to go to some wineries, going to do some hikes, going to do a hot air balloon ride. And then we are taking a 20-hour train from Sacramento to Seattle. It has like an observatory deck. It goes through like some beautiful, beautiful parts of Oregon. I probably won't leave the observation deck, just like in the middle of the night watching the stars and stuff. But we have the sleeper car, and then we'll get out in Seattle, and we have a place in Seattle from Sunday to Saturday, and we're going to see the U.S. men's national team play in Seattle while we're there. So that is definitely bucket list to go to the World Cup.
That is
So
awesome.
that's coming up in June. So
What an answer to that question. Oh my gosh, that's absolutely incredible. That's one of the coolest bucket list answers that we've had so far. I am so excited for you guys. It's like so much like personal mixed in with that, right? Like you both have that soccer background and it's an area you want to explore and the World Cup all coming together. I like it.
I'm actually impressed with myself that I went to that one first, because the other trip I'm going on actually before that next month. I'm going to the Grand Canyon to hike to Havasu Falls and the confluence of the Colorado River and Havasu. So I'm pretty pumped about that. We're within a month and going with some pretty awesome people. But yeah,
That's
that's
going to
another one.
be
And
very
that's
fun.
only like to like June. Just wait. I've got another summer adventure retreat planned. I've got a fall adventure retreat planned. We've got a wedding in Tennessee that's like a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful venue for my cousin, that we'll end up spending a week up there. So yeah, we've got plenty of travel planned as usual.
You got it going on. Yes, Liz and I actually did the Havasupai backpacking together. This was like, when was that? Like back in 2018, I think. So it's been
Yep.
a while.
Yep.
I will gladly take any and all notes of things you would suggest packing after this, or whenever you want to share them. I am in full like prep mode right now. So,
Ibuprofen, and an ankle wrap. I
ooh,
twisted my
oh,
ankle, what was that, like 5 minutes right before we arrived at the actual confluence.
Yeah.
And
oh,
I had
Far
to
from
hike all the way back. I remember Andrea like literally laughing at me in the tent because she was like, your foot. And I was like, dude, don't laugh. I'm in pain. But she was like, it looks so bad. So yeah, it was so
oh boy.
swollen. So bring meds just in case. Yeah.
Okay, that's good
Yeah.
to know.
But other than
Anything
that, it'll
else?
be great. Yeah. No, that's it. Just meds. Yeah. Well, you want to pack like super light, right? Because it's definitely a trek in. We actually, when I went with Andrea, we helicoptered out because there was no way I could hike all the way out on a bad ankle. But just making sure you bring tasty snacks to keep you sustained through that. Yeah. But it's
Yeah,
beautiful. Confluence is
food is
like
the number one
so
part
pretty.
I'm worried about.
Yeah. Yeah. So good
Okay,
luck. But definitely reach back out to Andrea, just like with all of her adventure travels. She probably has some good suggestions. Yeah.
for sure, we'll do.
Yeah, so that's exciting that you have lots of very cool things planned. So I'm excited for you.
Sure.
And
Thank you.
then, so I knew you had mentioned, starting up this adventure retreat, which sounds super cool. And then how you were looking for potential capital for, the capital raising that you're going to be doing. So if someone wants to get in contact with you and learn more about these opportunities, what is the best way that they can get in touch with you?
So my Instagram is right down there. That's my Instagram handle at Trevor Ryan 7. But then also we have a website for the adventure retreat. So it's epicadventureretreat.com/Zion for this first one. I can't believe we got that domain, but yeah, Epic Adventure Retreat. And then my partner and I also have a website for our fix and flips, which is trevorandrobert.com. So you can go on there and all of that will go straight to our CRM, and then I'll reach out to you. Whether you want to put capital to work and you just want to be passive capital, if you want to learn, you want to partner with us, you're an agent, you want to bring us a deal. We love partnering with agents as well. And yeah, I'm pretty active on all of those. So social media, especially, I'm on Instagram probably more than I should be, but
Aren't we all? Right.
yep.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Trevor. It has been so fun to get to know you better and to learn from you and hear about your journey. It has been really inspiring. And I love, like, it sounds like all the pieces are just lining up for you so nicely. And so it's so cool to be a part of that experience and learn from you along the way. So I really, really appreciate you being on.
Absolutely. Likewise. Thank you guys for having me on, and you'll have to come on my podcast as well.
Yeah,
So
we would
love to
love
have you.
that. We would love
Yeah.
that. Everyone
Awesome.
else, thank you for listening to this week's episode of From Corporate to Cash Flow. We will catch you next week. Hey, it's Andrea. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you liked it, I'd love it if you hit subscribe. Thanks so much.